Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Growing up, my parents always held very traditional beliefs. Family legacy, carrying on the family name, and producing heirs were not just values to them, they were obsessions. My father's booming voice often filled our home with talks of honor and lineage, and my mother's life revolved around the idea of doting on future grandchildren who would carry on the family torch. For a long time, I accepted this as normal, but everything changed when I met my wife, Emma. Emma and I met through mutual friends, and from the moment I saw her, I knew she was different. She was kind, intelligent, and had a quick wit that kept me on my toes. We dated for 3 years before getting married, and I can honestly say those years were some of the happiest of my life. Emma is 10 years older than I am, but that never mattered to me. What mattered was how she made me feel, valued, loved, and understood. From the very beginning, Emma and I talked about our dreams of building a family together. We envisioned a home filled with the laughter of children, holiday traditions, and a lifetime of shared milestones. The idea of being parents excited us, and we often found ourselves discussing baby names and imagining what our future kids might be like. It was a shared dream that brought us even closer and strengthened our bond as a couple. Our journey to parenthood was far from easy. After months of trying with no success, we sought medical advice. The doctors explained that due to Emma's age, the chances of conceiving naturally were significantly reduced. They outlined the challenges: a diminished ovarian reserve, and a higher likelihood of complications. But they also gave us hope, suggesting that with the help of IVF, we might still have a chance. I loved Emma dearly, and I was ready for all the challenges that we might need to face to fulfill our dream of having children. My parents, however, were a different story. When I first introduced them to Emma, they were polite but cold. Over time, their true feelings emerged. My mother pulled me aside one evening and said, "She's too old for you, and she can't give you children. Why are you wasting your life on someone who can't even fulfill her basic duties as a wife?" My father was even more blunt. "This is about a family name. If she can't give us grandchildren to carry it on, then she's not the right person for you." I was furious. How dare they reduce Emma to her ability to bear children? How dare they diminish the love and partnership we shared? I told them in no uncertain terms that Emma was my choice, and if they couldn't accept her, they'd be cutting themselves out of my life. For a while, they tried to pretend to tolerate her, but when Emma and I struggled with infertility, they pounced. After 2 years of trying to conceive naturally, we turned to IVF. My parents' reaction was appalling. They told me I was wasting my money and time, and that it was a sign from nature that Emma wasn't meant to be a mother. My father even had the audacity to suggest I divorce her and marry someone younger, someone fertile, who could give us what we deserve. That was the final straw. I cut them out of my life completely. No calls, no visits, no updates. Emma and I focused on our marriage and the arduous process of IVF. We didn't want the stress my parents were causing to distract us from our goal and to put extra headache in our life. IVF was emotionally and physically draining for her, but she faced it with grace and determination. After 3 grueling rounds, we finally got the news we had been praying for. Emma was pregnant. And not just with one baby, we were expecting twins. Our twin boys, Liam and Noah, were born healthy and happy. They were our miracles, our everything. Emma and I decided that we wanted to start fresh, free from the toxicity of my parents. When we filled out their birth certificates, we gave them Emma's surname instead of mine. It was a symbolic decision, a way of ensuring that our children would never be tied to the expectations and pressures that had plagued my upbringing. For 7 blissful years, we lived our lives without interference. Our boys grew up in a home filled with love and laughter. Emma and I poured our hearts into raising them, and seeing them thrive brought us more joy than we ever thought possible. My parents were nothing more than a distant memory, until last summer. We decided to take a family trip to the seaside. One afternoon, as we were enjoying ice cream by the water, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in nearly a decade. "Is that you?" I turned around, and there were my parents. My mother's face lit up when she saw the boys. "Are these your children?" she asked, her voice trembling. Before I could answer, she crouched down to their level and introduced herself as Grandma. My father followed suit, beaming and calling himself Grandpa. Liam and Noah looked at them, confused. They had never met these people before, and their sudden familiarity was unsettling. I stepped between my parents and my sons and firmly said, "We're on vacation. Please leave us alone." My mother's smile faltered. "But they're our grandchildren," she said, as if that justified everything. "We have a right to know them." "No, you don't," I replied. "You made it clear years ago that you wanted nothing to do with my family because of Emma. You don't get to show up now and play doting grandparents." My father's face darkened. "Don't be ridiculous. We're family. Blood is thicker than water. You can't just cut us out like that. Think about your children. They need grandparents in their life. You're robbing them of their family." "Actually, I can," I said, and I did. "Liam and Noah don't even have your surname. They have Emma's. You've been nothing but a source of pain and toxicity in our life, and I won't let you do the same to my children." My mother started to cry, but I wasn't moved. Emma gently took the boys' hands and led them toward the beach while I dealt with my parents. My parents began pleading, saying they had changed, that they deserved a chance to know their grandchildren. I told them no. They had made their choices, and now they had to live with the consequences. The next day, I received a text from my father. It was a long-winded message about how I was being cruel and unreasonable, and that if I didn't allow them to see Liam and Noah, they would sue for grandparents' rights. I couldn't believe the audacity. Grandparents' rights? For children they had never met, whose mother they had disrespected and dismissed? The irony was laughable. Emma and I consulted a lawyer who assured us that their case would be weak. Grandparents' rights typically apply in situations where there's an established relationship between the grandparents and the children, or if the grandparents' presence is deemed to be in the children's best interest. My parents met neither criteria. Still, the threat left a bitter taste in my mouth. The whole ordeal has been a reminder of why I cut them out in the first place. My parents' obsession with their legacy blinded them to what truly matters: love, respect, and family in its truest sense. Liam and Noah are thriving, and they don't need the negativity my parents would bring into their lives. Emma and I have built something beautiful together, and I'll be damned if I let anyone, even my own flesh and blood, jeopardize that. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my parents back into my life and denying them a relationship with my children? OP's parents disrespected OP's wife, his marriage, and his choices for years. They don't get to waltz back in now that it's convenient for them and claim a relationship with OP's kids. Protecting family from their toxicity is the right thing to do. If they truly cared about OP or his children, they wouldn't have treated Emma the way they did in the first place. Good for OP for putting his wife and kids first, as he should. And now let's hear the community's opinion on the matter. Not the a-hole. Your parents made their bed when they demanded you divorce your wife for not being able to have kids. The fact that they now want to claim a relationship with your children is absurd. They didn't respect Emma then, and their behavior now shows they still only care about their own wants. You're doing the right thing by standing your ground. Your kids don't need grandparents who treat their parents poorly. Not the a-hole. Your parents sound incredibly self-centered and entitled. They disrespected Emma to the point where you had to cut them out of your life. And now they're acting like they have a right to your kids just because they share some DNA. No way. You're doing the right thing by protecting your children from that kind of negativity. And honestly, bravo for giving your kids Emma's last name. That was a beautiful way to honor her. Not the a-hole. Your parents didn't care about Emma or your happiness when they were pushing their outdated obsession with carrying on the family name. Now that you have kids, they want to erase all the pain they caused and act like nothing happened? No. They're only interested because it serves their narrative. Good on you for standing firm and protecting your family from their toxicity. Don't let the guilt trips get to you. They've done nothing to earn a place in your life. My husband and I went to visit my family with our young daughter, 8 months, a few months ago. My brother and his wife have a 3-month-old girl. We were staying with them, and I asked my sister-in-law and brother if we could use some of my niece's things so we didn't have to pack so much on the flight. Niece is still sleeping in a bassinet in their bedroom, so the nursery was free to use. I made sure to ask permission, and we spoke almost daily the 2 weeks before we arrived, making sure that they had the things we needed: crib, extra baby monitor, some baby toys. We arrive. My brother is working, but sister-in-law was still on maternity leave, and we were expecting to meet her at their home. She's not there, and she didn't respond to a call or text. We assume she went to the store or was out, so we think nothing of it. We get unpacked and visit my father and other family who live nearby. Hours go by, and my brother comes home from work. He pulls me aside and said sister-in-law and niece will stay at her parents' house while we are here. She got anxious about us being there, and it had been bothering her for weeks. So she will not see us while we are there. She was worried since my daughter is in daycare and her daughter has just been with her family. I understand that. My husband and I really do. My brother has a large house and we always stay in his guest bedroom. He invited us to stay, but now his wife had second thoughts. We were upset and honestly offended, but we understood. After all, I am a new mama too. I called her and said we would stay at my dad's house and we would go buy the things the baby needed and tried to make it not a big deal. I wanted to make sure I got to meet my niece and that my brother didn't have to be away from his family. We were just trying to keep the peace. We stayed that night but packed our things the next morning, went to Target and bought a pack and play and sheets. We borrowed, with permission, the extra monitor and some toys. We go back to the house and pack our things, my husband and I venting to each other, talking about how it is weird that she did this and being upset and expressing our frustrations. Things that we would never say to her face or to my brothers, but still we did say it. Things move along. We stay at my dad's and we go back home a few days later. We only saw my niece twice, for 10 minutes each, because sister-in-law got too stressed. I believe she has postpartum and expressed concern to my brother. I text sister-in-law every few days, checking in on her and the baby. Now, fast forward 3 months. I've texted her maybe 20 times, and she never responded. I ask my brother why. He asks his wife why, and she confesses she was spying on my husband and I when we were packing our things when we were visiting, and watched and heard us talk about her. We didn't know they had cameras set up in the house, and we obviously didn't know she would spy on us. I want to have a relationship with her and my niece, so I ask my brother what he wants us to do. He says an apology might help. What the duck? Me apologize for venting to my husband and her hearing it while spying on us from her parents' home across town? I feel violated. This is all fresh, just happened yesterday, and now I'm trying to figure out what to do. I texted her, "If I have offended you, please let me know how I can make things right." My husband is frustrated, and my brother is also frustrated and a bit embarrassed. For me, I just want this all to be forgotten. I want to have a relationship with her and my niece. I worry that if I don't apologize, she's going to make my brother choose between her and the baby and his family. My brother and I are very close, and this is breaking my heart. There's a lot more to the story. My sister-in-law won't speak to my mom and has blocked her on Facebook, so she can't see photos of the baby. So this relationship is so delicate. Any suggestions or advice would be appreciated. It sounds like you've done all you can do. Ultimately, this is a family drama between her and your brother. He's tried, you've tried, and you might just have to wait to see what the fallout is. I'm sorry, this all sounds so uncomfortable, and frankly, she sounds like she doesn't want to be reasoned with. There's an old saying which seems quite appropriate right now. You can either be right or you can be happy. Maybe put your pride in your pocket, apologize, and let time do its thing. Time heals a lot of wounds. My guess is there's some things below the surface that haven't come out that probably will in time. This woman has problems that are so beyond you and what was said. She's just using that as a wedge, but it's my guess that she would have found a different wedge if that one hadn't showed up. This is something you can't win or smooth over or move on from. I think other problems will arise. This isn't up to you to fix. Don't put that weight on your shoulders. You sound really level-headed and good, but there's only so much you can do with this. Good luck to your brother. He's going to need it. My boyfriend, 26 male, Bradley, and I, 24 female, have been together for 2 years. We've lived together for the last year, and we often talk about our future and getting married. My boyfriend's sister, 35 female, Janice, and I have had a kind of odd relationship. A little backstory. When I met my boyfriend, he was in a relationship. Yes, I know what you're thinking, but that's besides the point. So anyways, they broke up and we started seeing each other. A month into talking, I was at his house and his ex, 26 female, Sarah, showed up and caused a huge scene. I'm talking knocking on the door, yelling, setting up a shrine on his front porch of things they had made or bought each other. It was crazy. to the point where he had to call Janice to ask her to leave because she wouldn't stop driving up and down the street. Janice was kind of pissed because she felt like he had cheated on Sarah, and Sarah was the victim. Her own marriage had ended in divorce due to infidelity. Fast forward into our relationship, and there's always been tension between Janice and I. I try to do things with her kids, offer my help with things as much as possible, always make it to family events if that means going straight there after a day at work. Basically, I try to bend over backwards because I just want her to like me. We don't really do anything together, which is fine because we have a huge age gap, except she always brings up how she used to do stuff with Sarah, how close her and Sarah were, etc. She's even brought her up during family dinners. Cue crickets in the room. I've always told Bradley how uncomfortable this makes me, and I wish Janice would put as much effort into trying to get to know me better, being friends with me, as I feel like I do with her, and how I feel she still does with Sarah. But he doesn't think she has malicious intent, just that Janice and Sarah became close in the year that he dated her. Sarah has moved on and has started a family, but I feel like Janice still has hopes that Sarah and Bradley will get back together one day. The thing that brought me seeking for advice is the most recent event. Janice started a side business and invited me to follow her Facebook page. When I went to the page, I noticed the only post was of her first client, Sarah. I impulsively commented that I couldn't wait to be a client of hers, which Janice deleted immediately. I was so angry I was physically shaking. Never once did she message me and ask if I would be a client. I showed Bradley, and I think he finally understands why I feel like Janice doesn't like me, although we will never bring it up because he doesn't want family drama. I am officially at a loss. I feel like I try constantly to prove myself to Janice. I only ever had brothers growing up, and I always wanted a sister. But I feel as though Janice will never look at me as her sister. What do you think? What do I do? Do I bring it up to her? Do I tell Janice how I feel? Do I just stop putting in effort and not worry about how Janice feels about me? Can a relationship where someone in your significant other's family doesn't like you work out? Or are we doomed? Please help. She doesn't like you. Stop trying to force a relationship. She doesn't owe you one. That's okay though. Just live your life. Be polite to her, but don't go out of your way. She might come around. She might not. Don't stress about it. Let it go, dear. Don't follow her stupid Facebook page. Don't reach out. Stop trying to win her over. You do not need a friendship with her for your relationship with boyfriend to thrive. When she mentions Sarah, she's most likely looking for a reaction from you, if even a subtle one. Do not give it to her. Act as though you didn't even hear her and spark up a different convo with boyfriend or someone else. Keep smiling and only giving off positive vibes. Maybe she will realize you aren't bothered by her middle school behavior and knock it off. But if not, oh well. If you home-wrecked your boyfriend's and ex's relationship, and you know her marriage ended due to infidelity, I don't know, it's common sense as to why she doesn't like you. Stop trying to get her to like you. So, my sister-in-law and her family, 3 kids, boyfriend, live 2 houses down from us. I married my husband 3 years ago. We've been trying to have kids since, and had 4 miscarriages. Sister-in-law accidentally on purpose got pregnant in August, September. I say on purpose because her boyfriend had been on the fence about moving in before then, but couldn't say no after getting her pregnant. She is a narcissist and needs all of the attention on her at all times. I got pregnant in November, but found out this January that she had no heartbeat. After 2 painful rounds of medication, I then had to have surgery to remove some leftover placenta. It took about a month for the entire process, and I was in pain and weak for at least 6 weeks. During this time, my mother-in-law sat me down and scolded me for not helping sister-in-law more with her kids, cooking dinners, etc. I told her I was still in pain, physically and emotionally, but that didn't matter. I was told I needed to ask her how she was doing frequently, even though they never asked me how I was doing. Fast forward to Sunday night. Sister-in-law was scheduled to be at the hospital for an induction at 6 a.m. Monday, so my husband decided to go wish them good luck in person. He stood at the bottom of the steps. Sister-in-law was at the door, and stood and talked to her for a while. He came back and said he had wished them luck for both of us. I felt that was acceptable, since I was in the middle of cooking dinner and they were about to go to bed. I've had a really hard time dealing with her pregnancy, and I've really tried hard to make sure she knew I cared. Her impending birth brought back all the feelings I had when I lost my baby girl, so I was honestly dreading it. We have a group chat on Messenger that consists of me, my husband, my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-law. Sister-in-law updated us throughout the day, and I said tidbits about what I was doing, etc. Around 4 p.m., I noticed that she wasn't updating and assumed she was sleeping or her labor had progressed. This morning at 8 a.m., I noticed that there weren't any updates in the chat, so I asked, "Any updates on sister-in-law?" Mother-in-law says, "Oh yeah, lots." So I replied that I hadn't seen anything since last night. Her reply, "You haven't asked or said a word on here, never called them or went over to wish them luck or anything." I have no words. Mind you, I'm shaking mad by then. Who stops updating family members on their sister-in-law's labor because I didn't congratulate them again? I sent her a private message after that, stating, "I wanted to send this to you privately. Husband went over night before last and wished them both luck for both of us. I didn't message her when I woke up because I figured her phone was blowing up enough, and she probably wanted to focus on the birth. I thought I did say something to her, but if I didn't, I'm sorry. This is not a competition to see who does and doesn't care. We obviously love her and the baby. I was relying on the chat for updates because it makes more sense than her messaging everyone the same information. I'm hurt that instead of saying anything, both of you just stopped updating husband and I. At first, we thought everything must be progressing slowly. Then we started wondering if she was okay." She replied with, "Roshireen, there is no excuse for you not walking over with husband the other day. They haven't heard one word from you. Don't act all innocent here. There is no competition, but there is some really hurt feelings. I've been telling them they will need to air all of this out once this is over. The reason husband went over was at my behest. Since everything happened with you, you have had nothing to do with them. I've spoken to you about this several times. I've pleaded with husband to keep his relationship strong like it used to be. When you care about people, you don't need to be told what you should be doing. You know it in your heart. All yesterday in the group message, you never once said a word of support. I've always taught my kids that you get what you give out of life. So you can try to make all the BS excuses you want. There is no excuse for this, and I'm not alone in my feelings. If you ever want a relationship with people in this family, you have a lot of repair work to do. This is directed at you. I will speak to my son directly. You spoke in the group chat about your knitting, packages in the post office, but couldn't speak one word of encouragement or anything about the labor and delivery, and then you wonder why the conversation was moved. That was sister-in-law's choice, and I don't blame her one bit. So if you want to know anything, you're going to have to reach out to them directly." I didn't and won't respond. Husband did ask sister-in-law how she was doing, and she responded normally. She had the baby, and we found out from my mother, who saw it on Facebook. Basically, they have created a family group chat without me or my husband, and are sharing pictures, etc. All because I didn't walk over with him and wish them good luck in person, and that I'm having a hard time dealing with her pregnancy after losing mine. Am I the a-hole? Update. Pretty sure sister-in-law is nuts. She just brought her one-day-old son home. Her second youngest son is at his dad's, still under quarantine since his dad was exposed to virus less than 2 weeks ago. She brought him home to post pictures of him with her newborn. He is reaching out and touching the baby's face. She has exposed not only her newborn, but his sister, herself, and her boyfriend. I'm sure mother-in-law and father-in-law will also visit them today. I would absolutely drop the rope. Tell both of them to duck off and live a lot more stress-free by not dealing with their BS anymore. The whole world does not revolve around them. You have a life too that's just as important. You have a golden opportunity to be able to have some distance from these horrible people. You are their scapegoat, but you can simply just get away and wait for them to come around if they ever want to. So long as you have a healthy relationship with your husband, it will be fine, especially if he puts his foot down about their disgusting behavior. Why does sister-in-law need support from someone who has recently suffered a traumatic miscarriage? Why can't she get it off her mom, partner, or friends instead of someone who's grieving? What point is there to see? I think it's okay not to be part of someone's pregnancy if it's painful. Anyway, OP knitted blankets and gifts, so I think she was trying her best. They insisted that everyone band together for her, and the family brought her dinner, took the kids' places, etc. All they did for me was say sorry for your loss and move on. I really did try, but honestly, some of this is still so hard to deal with, and I needed some space. She had a ton of people supporting her. She had over 50 people on every post congratulating her throughout her pregnancy, not counting family support, yet decided to single me out and retaliate for something so small.